Thanks everyone for joining the call. Very good evening and good afternoon wherever you are. Welcome to today's webinar. We are presenting today's call on the topic approval process for goods and service receipts plus supplier invoice document in SAP Business by Design. So here myself Arun and we have co-presenter Deena with us. So we'll proceed with the agenda part now. So here this is how agenda goes. Let's take a look at overview. We'll talk about the business background. We'll talk about prerequisites. Then we'll discuss about the rules available for goods receipt as well as supplier invoicing. We'll show give a demo, that is scenario execution, and then we'll discuss about the common issues and a few reference documents, and we'll park the last couple of minutes for Q&A session. So going forward, I just would like to give the overview of approval process basically in industries. And it coming to Business by Design product, you're all aware that the approvals will be done under Managing My Work Center. So basically Managing My Work Center enables the respective approvers to approve the tasks for the respective business documents. Yeah, so the flexibility we provided in approval process that you can scope the single-step approval or the multi-step approval process. So what is multi-step approval process is you can define multiple rules in one rule. Say for example, you can define approval by cost assignment, approval by the reporting line unit manager. You can define set of rules and you can trigger the approval process for respective business document. You can define multiple approvers in a single step or in multiple steps. So that flexibility we have provided. Additional flexibility what we provided is to use an extension fields. So few of the customers and partners would like to use an extension fields and they want to use that as conditions in the approval process. So this is where we provided this functionality so that they can use specific extension fields and use in the business document approval process. So we do have a couple of checkboxes. If we look at the approval process that we have, skip re-approval checkbox, automatic approval checkboxes. This really helps to avoid the repeated business tasks for the specific employee. So this avoids the time consumption and really helps to focus on the task which needs an approval process. So apart from this standard rules, we do have workflow rules. This is to get the notification or the email for the respective document type. So customers or partners can use the workflow rules to get the notification apart from the standard notifications what they get through business task management. So we do have a self-approval feature as well. So what happens it was, in case of employer responsible or the buyer responsible of the specific purchasing document, if approver itself creating the document at the time of approving the specific business task, system will allow them to approve their own documents. So this functionality we have provided in approval process. Let's move to the next slide, that is business background. So based on a couple of requests, this function has been provided. So we do have functionality for goods and service receipts approvals as well. So what exactly matters here is in case if a goods and service receipts is getting, the quantity is getting exceeded or the amount is getting exceeded, system will trigger an approval process. So basically, why do we need this? In certain industries, certain companies, there will be a huge quantities or huge cost involved in the respective purchasing documents. So in that cases, if anything varies in the delivered quantity, so it has to be notified for respective managers. In such case, we use approval process for the goods and service receipt document. So one thing we keep it in mind that we don't have approval process for the two-stroke process, that is where we use this inbound delivery document. So this approval process considers only non-stock scenario, so where you can configure and use it for the respective business documents and business scenarios. So when it comes to supplier invoice approval option, This ensures that the invoices meet the defined conditions that you have maintained in the approval process. Before it releases for payments, it will go for an approval process. Since this is a payment document, which is a legal document, I think yes, all the partners and customers have approval process defined for supply invoices, just to have the 4I principle here. So when a business process requires a manager approval, definitely the system will look at the organizational management, how it is defined, and it will try to define the responsible manager and the responsible functionalities that has been assigned for the respective org unit under the organizational management. So for example, if specific org unit is marked as a cost center, and if that is marked as a reporting line unit, so in case if the responsible manager is assigned to it, so when you define such approval rules like approval by cost center manager, approval by reporting line manager, those org units will help to determine the responsible org units and the respective cost center managers or reporting line unit managers. Yeah. So let me move for the next slide. So these are the prerequisites which needs to be maintained before we start today's presentation. That is, you have to maintain the approval process for goods and service receipts, then approval process for supplier invoices. Then we have to maintain employee work distribution rules, and then we have to provide the access rights for employees who creates the goods and service receipt as well as the supplier invoices. In turn, we call them as an accountant. And we do have another concept called alternative approval for supplier invoices as well. So we can talk about this concept later. So let me show this in the system. Where do we maintain basically all these data? So let me take you to the system directly here. So you have to go for the Business Configuration Work Center. Under the Business Configuration Work Center, go to the Implementation Projects view. You have to select Edit Project Scope. Once you select this screen, so you have to navigate to the first step here, that is to the questions part. So if you go to Purchasing Element, under Purchase Request and Order Management, here you see the Goods and Service Receipts. This is the element you have to select, and here you find the relevant question which is relevant for the approval process. So it asks, do you want to use an approval process for goods and services? If you mark it, then the approval process will be enabled in Application User Management and Approval Process view. If not, it will not come. Yeah. So just make sure that you just select this checkbox, and sometimes customers or partners used to keep this in draft status. So if you keep it in draft status, it will not be active. In order to activate it, you have to finish the scoping, and then only it will be activated. Yeah. So coming to the next document, that is for supplier invoices. So you have to select supplier invoicing element. If you go to the supplier invoices and credit memos sub element here, you have option here under the group supplier invoice approvals. You can see the questionnaire. Do you want to use an approval process for the supplier invoices? If you mark this in a similar way, you get the option to define or create an approval process for the supplier invoice business document. If you select, do you want to allow self-approval for supplier invoice approvals? So as I said earlier, so this helps to certain manager to approve or him or her own documents which has been created. So this will not help to determine the approval process, but at the time of approval, the business task management can be approved by the same person. And let me take you to another prerequisite, that is we have to maintain employee work distribution. So for that, you have to go for Application and User Management, and then Task Distribution and Employee Work Distribution. So here, if you come down, you have Purchasing Approval Value Limit Business Area under Purchasing. So you have, once you edit this, you have to define the employer responsible here, as well as the respective value limit for the specific persons in order to determine the approval process correctly. Yeah. So here you do see the couple of employer responsible maintained with respect to value limits. Yeah. So in the same way, let me go back to the prerequisites from the PPT here. The next slide is, we have to provide the prerequisites for the respective accountants as well as the person who creates the goods and service receipts. So if I go back to the system here, I have to navigate to Application User Management Work Center, go to the business users. Here you find the respective employee to whom you want to create supplier invoices or the goods and service receipts. So let me try to find the person here to whom it have logged in. So that's Peter Greeny. So we have Peter Greeny here. If we select Edit Access Rights, you have to navigate to the View, Work Center and View Assignment. If you come down, basically users have to assign to the respective work center views, that is goods and service receipts, as well as the supplier invoicing. In case of approvers, they have to assign the work center views under Managing My Area. So if you come under Managing My Area, for those approvers who want to approve the goods and service receipt document, they have to scope MMA operational purchasing. So once they scope this, they should be able to approve the goods and service receipt. Keep in mind that this operational purchasing also enables the user to approve the purchase orders as well. Yeah, so it's not an independent element; it's a dependent element, so that approvers can also approve the goods receipt as well as purchase orders. Yeah, in the same way, we have another element. If you come down, you can see the supplier invoicing. That is MMA supplier invoicing. In case if approvers assigned to this specific element, they will be able to approve the document and they get a business task. Yeah, so this is about the access rights. So this is about alternative approvers. Alternative approvers is nothing but, for example, in your company, if the person responsible or the manager is going for a vacation for a couple of days, in such cases, like a substitute, or they can also maintain employee responsible here. Or in case if you have 2 higher level managers in your organization, so you can maintain these employee responsible as an alternative approver as well. So this alternative pro functionality depends upon the supplier invoicing unit. If you have multiple supplier invoicing units, you can maintain a responsible person according to the unit. So I just would like to hand over the call to my co-presenter, Dina. Dina, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I would like to take you through about the approval rules and then few of the work distribution rules. I will also execute the scenarios for you. What you can see here is basically the list of work distribution rules that we have. And you can see it's listed clearly about which is applicable for goods and receipts, just first 2 of them, and those applicable to supplier invoices, almost all of them except the first one. Yeah. So yes, first one in this work distribution rules is direct approvers, and that too related to a goods and service receipt. I would like to show you the approval process that we have set up. We have already set up this before. Like I told you, we just have 2 work distribution rules here, both of this, and we have just given very simple conditions here. The first work distribution, as you can see, only if the goods receipt quantity exceeds compared to the PO, only then this work distribution accordingly triggers an approval. As you can see here, the manager of the cost assignment of the goods and service acknowledgement has to approve. So this is the one, and let me just take you through. Yeah. Okay. I have. Okay. What we would do is I'll take you through the different ones from the PPT itself. As you can see here, direct approvers. We do have here, what we have maintained is we have maintained multiple approvers here for this direct approvers, which is a simple work distribution to people, and based on the condition called exceed amount of PO amount. So here, this particular condition, we need to know about this because this works only for those goods receipts created against purchase orders which have a limit item, not for the normal purchase orders. So based on this, there'll be the 2 approvers. If you have given multiple, 2 or more, or even single person, it takes like this option here, all approvers required. If you select this, then all the approvers who are maintaining the multiple approvers has to approve the document. If not, only one of them can approve. Even if one person approves, it will get completed. Okay. So coming to the next one. So this is what we wanted to show you actually. While creating a goods receipt, actually my purchase order, which was created for ordered quantity, is just one, and I wanted to increase the quantity to more, and we could see that it is going ahead again. So this one I would like to show to you in the system. So how this is behaving as what is given here, like how it shows to people. Okay. Here we are. Okay, let me just go here. I've already noted down few POs that I've already created. So, beat anything. Okay, for this particular purchase order, I'm trying to create. So, if you see the conditions, I'm talking about direct approvers right now. So, it says PO limit. So let me just take you to the so this is a purchase order which is created with a limit item, and I would like to create a goods receipt for this just to ensure as per the conditions that I've maintained. Okay. Yeah. So here I've given 100. So just to ensure. Okay. Yeah. The delivered quantity can be anything because this is related to a limit. And as you can see, it clearly shows the system does let you know that amount of the whatever amount you have maintained in the goods receipt is exceeded the PO amount by so and so USD. So at this stage, if we post the goods receipt document, so we should be able to see the approvers. It's taking a while before it is getting posted. In this approvals, like I was telling, direct approvals, since we have chosen two direct approvers here, 738 got created. Let me quickly show you that document. So what I would like to show you is, since if you have chosen in the approval process, I've chosen this all approvals required, as you can see. So because of that, what happens is, of course, the task gets generated and it is sent for both the direct approvers that we have configured. However, since I've chosen the check mark, both will have to approve it. If the check mark wasn't there, then even if any one of them has approved it, then the task gets completed and the document will be, created. So that's it about this direct approvers. Then coming to the next one. Yeah, next about the goods and activity. Yeah, next about this work distribution. Here, as you can see, this is the manager of the cost assignment to the goods and service activity has to approve here. As you can see, the conditions that we have maintained exceed quantity of the PO quantity. And here we have basically few cases. So the first case is where we are going to assign a cost assignment as a cost center, and then we will see how it takes it. Yeah, here let me create it. Let me see if I have something saved for this. So I've just saved few purchase orders. So accordingly, let me take you through. Yeah, so this is a purchase order where I've maintained a cost assignment as a cost center. So based on this, if I'm creating a goods receipt, I would expect the approvals. Let me close this. Yeah. So it should be going to this. So here we have account assignment. So this is the cost center maintained. So for this cost center, we have manager who is Arthur. So we expect Arthur to appear as a So I would like to increase the quantity because as per the conditions, I told that only when goods receipt quantity is higher than PO. So that is why wantedly I'm increasing the quantity more than ordered quantity. So yeah, as you can see it clearly, the system does show that ordered quantity of purchase order item is being exceeded. So I would like to post the goods receipt here. Here it is 739. So in this document, we should be able to see Arthur. Let's open this up. And here in the view all screen, you can see approvals. Yeah, here Arthur should be the approver, as you can see it. Okay. So this is the first case. Then coming to the next one that we have. So this is about the case 2. Yeah, here as you can see, because this approval of goods and service acknowledgement, where we can see that we also have an option to add assignment as a project task. So here we would expect based on a project task, then person responsible in it has to approve. That should be drawn here. Okay, so let me just show you this in the system. So here, this is another purchase order that we created just to have it fast in executing the scenarios. Well, it takes a bit. Yeah, here also as you can see, it should also be the same condition for this. So I'll basically increase the quantity, and here I'll show you the account assignment. We have assigned it to a project task. Let me show you the person responsible for this. It is above mentioned. And at times, if you're giving a project task, if it happens to be a subtask, then you'll have to check the respective subtasks, person responsible, not the header. Okay. Okay. So as per this, so I'll just click on check, and as you can see, it does show here also that it's been exceeded, and I'll quickly post this. So here 740 is created. Let's just open that up. So here it is. We would be expecting the same person as per the project task. Yeah. So here it is Bob, like we saw it. Let's move on to the next scenario here. That is case 3 here. So one more important case has to be considered here. This is like the first one that we showed. What if a cost center manager is assigned, and however, it does not have a manager? It so happens. So this scenario, we'll see what is actually happening. What happens here is, if a manager is not there, however, you'll have to go open the cost center and then go to this tab called responsible managers, where you'll be able to see cost responsibility. Whoever is maintained as cost responsibility, that person will be for that person, the task will be generated. So let me just quickly show you that in the system. Here we have, as usual, let me just increase some quantity and let me show you this. Generally for any cost center that you open, yes, you can see it here, which is very much visible that manager is not there. However, if you go into the view wall, there's something called responsible managers here. So usually what happens, any cost center, whoever is maintained as cost responsibility here, that person usually comes as manager also here. It's just an exception case as per the business conditions. So here, as you can see, though manager is not there, here cost responsibility is shown as Bob, and accordingly in our code receipt also, this is the person who will be given the approval task by the system. So let me click on check. As you can see here also it shows that we have been exceeded. Yeah, let me post it quickly. And yeah, 741 got created. So let's open it up and just check it out. The approvals. You can see here Bob. Yeah. So this, yeah.
Dear participants, just to add to Dina's point here, in case if the document is not if the document is assigned to cost center and it doesn't have the respective cost center manager, in such cases, system will try to determine the cost responsibility person. So if you double click on the argument, it will show the cost responsible managers. Under this, you will find the cost responsibility. So in that case, system will determine the cost responsibility. So it could be the higher level cost center manager or at the top level manager. So make sure that system will determine the right responsible person here, and the task will be generated for the same person. Thank you, Dina. You can take over back.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so coming to the next work distribution rule, supplier invoice approver. So this rule is something related to the rule supplier invoice approver enables you to send the approval task to the manager of the invoicing unit, which is assigned to the supplier invoice. So based on the invoicing unit, it goes to the manager of that invoicing unit. So as you can see here in this particular work distribution, we have maintained a condition. Let me show you that in the system. So here I will show you how it is happening here, what you have put across. So basically when you are creating a invoice, if you go to the general tab and go to the partners and tab, a sub-tab, then there you can see the invoicing unit, which is maintained, MC22000. So for this, basically, who is the manager is in the organization management. You can see from the organization management work center, you can find this and you will be able to see the person who is responsible. Yeah. So accordingly, we expect the manager of this invoicing unit to be picked as a approver here. Okay. So let me show you this. Okay, so here, so I've noted down here also a few details. Let me just check for them. Yeah, so here, let me just open up the supplier invoice related approval process before that, because there are different conditions maintained for each of them. So it will be good for me to refer it side by side. Yeah, so all this basically I'll be taking you through this 6 approval process that I've set up here, one after the other. Okay. So for this first one, so in this system, I have set up in such a way that it should be triggered when the cost center is MC22 000, and total amount is when it is less than 30 USD. Okay, so this is a new invoice, as you can see. Let me just show you the cost center, and then I can show you the amount. Yeah. So under cost distribution, as you can see, we have maintained the same cost center as per the rules that we have maintained, so conditions. Yeah. So here that I have maintained. So amount, like we spoke, so we want it to be less than 30 USD, only then this will trigger. So it's already the same. So just to ensure, before clicking on check totals, and so let's, yeah. So we can see here for this manager that we can see. So manager is Arthur, and hence it has triggered approval for Arthur of that invoicing unit. Okay. So coming to the next one. So coming to the next one, that is direct approvers. So here, as we discussed earlier, it is the same way it behaves for goods and service receipt, and also for supplier invoicing. So this is basically here the different type of direct approvers. It could be one person or multiple approvers we can maintain, and based on the conditions, it will be triggering the respective person for approval. So let me just quickly show you this. Okay, so for all this, I'm going to use the same invoice to show you. Yeah, here I think let's confirm about the conditions that I have maintained for direct approvers. As you can see, it's the same cost center, so I can use the same invoice. But however, the amounts I've told only if it is greater than 30 USD and less than 50, less than or equal to. So I'll just just increase the amount here, because the cost center is already the same, as we know. And let's just so here, since I've maintained multiple approvers, that is 2 approvers, so both are coming. So yes, we have both shown here in the screen. Yeah, so these are the 2 persons appearing, so that is fine. And let me come to the next slide. Yeah, this work distribution is about manager of manager. Like it describes the description of the work distribution is very simple. That is, rule manager of manager enables you to determine next level reporting line unit manager of the employee responsible, which is there in the supplier invoice. So here, as you can see, it also depends on what kind of conditions you've put across. It also depends on that. Let me quickly show you this as well in the system. I'll be using the same invoice here as well. Of course, I'll check the conditions which I've put now. So as you can see here, I've maintained the same cost center. Of course, it takes total net amount. It should be greater than 50 USD and less than 70. So just I'm going to edit the amount here. It's just 50. So including the tax and all, we would get a little more, so that should be fine. Yes. So here it's again manager of manager. 1 second. 1 second. Yeah. So here, as we can see here, the manager of manager should be getting it. Yeah. So this I would like to explain you before showing it in the system. So in our case, since the cost center that we have put is Peter Greeny, so whoever is creator, the employee responsible also Peter Greeny here. So Peter Greeny's manager is Arthur. And now we'll have to check, because the description says next level manager. So for Arthur, we'll have to check who is the manager. And for Arthur, it happened that Al Gilmore is a manager. Okay, so that's how it would show Al Gilmore in the approval. Let me quickly show you in the system. One second, let's cross check about. Here we would see in the parties and locations, in the general tab, its employee responsible is Peter Green. So here Peter Green's manager is Arthur, and then we would also check for Arthur who would be the manager. Yeah, so here it should show John Jason. So here we would expect So here the condition is it has to be greater than 50. Okay, let me try create a new invoice. I think that should help, because at times if I'm using the same invoice, system may not trigger the details from the backend. Rather, I will create a new invoice. So here, let me take the same supplier basically, what I've used earlier, but I'm trying to input details manually again. Just I'll give the invoice date, the posting data as well. Yeah, let me give the cost assignments. Yeah, let me just show you from items. So here under cost distribution, let me give the same cost assignment, that is MC cost center. So this is the one. Let me click on check. Yeah. So in the approvers, we would be expecting John. Yeah, like I was showing you right now, Peter's manager is Arthur and Arthur's manager happened to be John. So hence we are able to see John is appearing. Okay. So let's move on to the next work distribution. Let me take you back to the PPT. Yeah. So this is about manager, and moving on to the next, we have approval by reporting line unit manager, where I think we have two more connected to this related. But anyway, coming to this one, so it's basically approval by reporting line unit manager, which enables you to send an approval task to the reporting line unit manager of the employee responsible who is maintaining the supplier invoice. So here, as you can see here, so here who is the responsible, like I showed you in the parties and locations, you will be able to see this employee responsible. So this again the same person here, Peter, and whose manager is Arthur. So Arthur is the one we are expecting as an approver here, because it's a simple approval by reporting line unit manager. Let me just show you this quickly. Just to make it quick, I'll be editing an already invoice that I have. Okay. So here, yeah, let's check the conditions here for this particular. So I've maintained only total net amount, that is greater than 70 and less than 100 USDs. So accordingly, let me edit this existing invoice. So here also basically this invoice also has almost all the same details with the cost center, company, supplier and stuff. So I'll only edit the amounts here. That is above 70. Yeah, this is already above 70. As you can see the total amount here. So Arthur is showing. So this is all about this. Coming to the next one here. So approval by reporting line unit manager by value limit. So here the description says that this rule enables you to send an approval task based on the value limit which is maintained for people who are line unit managers actually. Okay. So here there's one point we would like to highlight to you because here in this classic example that we have taken, actually for Arthur, as we saw in the previous discussion, that Arthur's manager is actually John. Yeah. However, here, because it depends on value limit, it does not take a person's manager. However, if you want to know whom will the system consider for value limits, is you'll have to check it in the org management, like you can see it here. So here you can see in the hierarchy of cost centers maintained, Arthur's manager is actually here. I mean, Arthur's above manager is Jonathan. So Jonathan is one who is considered.
Dear participants, just to add additional points, yeah, basically we had a perception that customer has to update the employee work distribution rules based on the reporting manager segments. It's not the way, because the perception is wrong here. You have to update the employee work distribution rule based on the cost center hierarchy, what you see here. Because sometimes what happens is the cost center hierarchy would be different and the reporting line unit segments will be different. In such cases, if you define the employee work distribution rules based on the reporting line unit structure, so system will not determine the right person. So then the task might go for a wrong persons, or it would not determine the right persons at all. It might create an assigned task. Yeah. So just make sure that you maintain all this in employee work distribution rules based on cost center hierarchy. Yeah. Thanks. Now over to you back.
Yeah. Thanks, sir. Yeah. So here. As I told, by value limit it happens. So we'll need to maintain work distribution rules prior to having this work distribution to work like we decide. So here are a couple of people that, as you can see, we have maintained. I'll show it to you in this system as well. So based on that and the total gross amount that we have maintained and their value limits, system would trigger accordingly the necessary person. It will always be a single person here and it will trigger. Let me show you quickly in the system here. Let me take the same example here. So here, as you can see, let me show you based on the approvals and the conditions. Yeah, here as you can see the conditions right now we have set up is greater than 100 USD and less than 130. So I'll need to edit this. That has to be greater than 100. So let me calculate it. And so here also we have the same. Let me show you the employee work distribution that is being maintained here for this employees related to this. So here I've kept it already open. As you can see here, for Arthur, we have maintained it as 120, and the next persons that we have maintained, each one has a different value limit. So let me just show you from here. So here, so here as you can see, Arthur is triggered based on the value limit and the conditions maintained for the work distribution. The same way, like we have mentioned here, when you increase the work based on the work distributions. So here, for Jonathan's example, it says 200 is his limit. So in the invoice, if I'll increase it a bit more than what is there for Arthur, that is 130, say 130. So let me also keep into consideration. It says equal to here. Yes, this is accepted. With the total amount, it will be, with the taxes, it will be more. So I'll have to reduce it. Yeah, just calculating with the taxes to ensure the total amount falls less than, because only then our approval process will be triggered. And here for Jonathan, it is 200, and this amount happens to be more than the value that we have maintained for Arthur. So here we would expect Jonathan. Yeah, Jonathan is appearing. Yeah, this is how we have maintained this. So let's go on to the next one. Yeah, here we have. So here we have approval by reporting line unit manager by value up to value limit. So here basically what happens is the small difference between the previous work distribution and this one is that there only one approver is triggered, and since its limit is reached, it stops there. It doesn't traverse up in the hierarchy to fetch the other up managers in the same hierarchy. Okay, so here, as you can see here, if the supplier invoice value exceeds the approval limit, then the next reporting line unit manager hierarchy is found, and its managers also gets the tax. So basically all of them get it. So that is what we have tried to show you in this screenshots here. So as you can see here, based on the amounts, so Arthur and Jonathan both are coming. And if the amount goes even higher and it also falls under the next person, then all will be determined. So let me just show you this simple one scenario of this. Coming to the same one, before that let me cross check right now what is the conditions that I have maintained currently. Okay, I said that only when it is greater than 130 and less than or equal to 1000 it goes. So here, as you can see, Jonathan has 200 and next person in the hierarchy is Catherine. Catherine has 400. So let me just make it simple here, and I'll increase the amount to some 900, say. So here it's satisfied because it's 900, and here for Catherine has only 400. However, it's going to pick all the people till the end. So yeah, let me just calculate before. Yeah, so you should be able to get all the 3 people in the approval process. Yeah, like we explained. Yeah, I think from here my colleague will be taking over. Arun, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dina. Thanks for explaining it. Let me take you through a couple of rules. Now, I just would like to explain the next one. That is, Rule 7 is approval by recipient. As the name says, the recipient is the one who receives the product here, and he will be acting as an approver. So the recipient will come into picture when you create a shopping cart. So you are the requester, and you will the recipient, that is the end person who receives the product. So in this case, based on the certain conditions, system will trigger an approval task. So as you see here, approval by recipient, if you go to the items tab under partition locations, you see the recipient tab here, recipient field. So if you, based on this recipient field, system will determine the respective approvers here. Yeah. So as you see here, Alexander Adams has been maintained as a recipient, and system has determined Alexander here. So let me go to the system and show the same for you. So I'll go to the Supplier Invoicing Work Center, Invoice and Credit Memos. Let me try to pull a couple of invoices here. I'll create a copy of this invoice. I'll select View All and navigate to the Items tab here. So let me go for Items tab. So before we create an approval, before we create a supplier invoice, let me take you to the conditions what we have defined here. Again, you have to go for application user management. You have to go for supplier invoicing approval process. So here we do see the supplier invoicing approval process. You can select view. So here you can see approval by recipient work distribution rule. So it has a condition: the total net amount is less than $20. So let me try to create a supplier invoice within less than $20. Let me give the net price as 15 and calculate total amounts. So now the value is less than $15.94. So now system should determine the respective person based on the recipient. So recipient, I would like to give it as Alexander. So he'll be the one who receives the end product. So if I select calculate total amount, system calculates the total gross amounts and the net amounts. And if I go back to the approval process, approval tab here, you do see that system has determined Alexander Adams itself. So as per the rule says, system will determine the recipient as an approver. So hope this is clear. Let me go for the next rule, approval by line manager of a recipient. So how does this work is, this rule will trigger an approval task for the reporting line manager of the employee who received the product. In a similar way, in case of Alexander Adams, he reports to Luther Lubansky here, and he will be the approver of this document. Yeah. So let's go back to the system and see how the system determines the approver here. So I'll take the same example here, but before that, I would like to show the conditions that what we defined for this approval by reporting line manager of the recipient here. We define the total net amount as greater than $20 and less than $40. So I just increase the net price to 45. So this would like to reduce it to probably 30. So since we have the conditions in that way, calculate total amounts. Now if I go to the approval tab, system has to determine Luther Lubansky. So if you go to the general tab, if you go to the item tab, sorry, and here you find this Alexander Adams, and here you can see Alexander Adams is reporting to Luther Lubansky. So basically, the reporting manager of recipient will receive the task here. Yeah. So this is how system determines Luther Lubansky for this specific invoice here. Let me take you to the next rule. What we have is approval by reporting line managers of recipients by value limit. So this rule basically enables you the respective approvers and determines based on the reporting line managers for the respective recipients in the supplier invoice document. So in case if the value limit is getting exceeded, it will determine the hierarchical managers, and they have to approve the respective business document. So as you see here, so the respective reporting line managers has to be maintained in the cost centers, in the organization management work center. Based on this, based on the recipient that what you have maintained in the supplier invoices, system will determine the respective manager here, that is Luther Lubansky. You have to maintain the employee work distribution for Luther Lubansky. So make sure that you have maintained the proper value limit here for the respective reporting managers, so the system will trigger the approval process. So let me go back to the system. So before that, let me take you to the value limit here. So we have defined the conditions like greater than $40 and less than $400. So I have to create a supplier invoice more than $40 and calculate total amount. So the system will calculate total gross amounts as well. Before that, I just would like to give an overview of this employee work distribution here. Just make sure that you maintain these set of employee responsible maintained here based on the cost center hierarchy, not based on the reporting hierarchy. Yeah, so that system will determine the respective managers. So here, as you see here, Luther Lobansky is also maintained, and Al Gilmore is also maintained. So if I create a supply invoice for $47, system has to determine the Luther Lobansky as well as Al Gilmore. So basically, what system will do here is the system will try to determine the respective managers of the recipients based on the value limit what you defined here. So for example, if you maintain the invoice value, let's say 40 here, system will determine only Luther Lobansky. If you increase the value to 75, system will try to determine both of them, that is Al Gilmore and Luther Lobansky, and if it is more than or equal to $100, system will try to determine all of them in the org unit level or org hierarchy. Yeah. So this is how the approval by reporting line managers of recipients by value limit works. The next one, what we have is approval by cost assignment. So this is quite simple. So whatever the cost assignment that is assigned in the supplier invoice document, the respective cost center manager or the project manager gets an approval task. Yeah. So here we have two cases. So as I said, in case of supplier invoice is assigned to a cost center, then system will try to determine the manager of the cost center, that is Arthur Major here, and here you can see the same. In case if it is assigned to the account assignment project task, so the project responsible person will get a task and they have to approve the task. And let me take it to the system here. Let me show how it is determined. Before that, let us see what are the conditions that we have maintained for this approval by cost assignment. We have maintained that total net amount should be greater than 450. So let me try to maintain the value, say 500, and calculate total amounts. Now, if I go to approval tab, system determines Arthur Major as well as Kennedy Wood here. Yeah. So there could be a couple of cases where system tries to determine multiple approvers based on a set of conditions that what you maintain. Because in a couple of partner systems and customer systems, we do see that they have maintained multiple steps and they get confused what and from where these specific approvers are getting determined. So in case in any of the rules, if the condition met, system will create an approval task and to trigger the respective approvers here. Yeah. So this is how this approval by cost assignment. So as you see, if I go to the items tab here and go to the cost distribution. So here we do see that the cost object which is assigned to this invoice is MC 22,000 procurement. If I double click on the cost center, that is MC 22,000, you can see that the manager responsible is Arthur. So system determined the same person here, and this is working fine. In case if I change the account assignment to project task, what happens to it? Let's take it try. Let's assign this document to a project task, and I'll assign this the project responsible document COC 23, and let the same net price as per the rules what we defined, that system has determined Ron Mayers here. So as I have informed, how Ron Mayers has been determined is, so we assigned this invoice for the project task. So the project responsible will get a task. So as you see, for project COC 23, Ron Mayers is a person responsible. So let's move for the next rule, that is approval by cost center manager based on the project task. This rule works based on the cost center which is assigned to the project task. Yeah. So for example, in case if the project is COC 23 and it is assigned to the responsible unit marketing, in such cases the cost center of marketing has to approve the document here. Yeah. So let's take a try in the system itself. So before that, we have to see what is the conditions that we have maintained here. So for approval by cost center manager based on project task, we have maintained total net value greater than and less than value here. I'll just increase the value to 605. So this should trigger an approval process, calculate total amounts. And let me try to go for projects. If I open the project, under the project plan, you will be able to see the accountant subtab here. Under this accounting subtab, you should be able to see the responsible unit of the project. That is the cost center, which is responsible for the projects here. So if you come down here, we do see accounting tab. Under accounting tab, you do see the responsible unit marketing here. So if we double click on this marketing, you can see that responsible cost center manager, that is Carly Edison here. So what we do expect is, based on the specific conditions, now system has to calculate Carly Edison as an approver. So as I said, system has determined the Carly Edison based on the respective or responsible unit which is assigned in the project. Yeah, this is based on the responsible cost center which is assigned to the project. So Simulate will determine the responsible person. So let me take back to the PPT here. We do have another case, where the project manager is an employee responsible. Yeah. So here there is another case that what happens if no responsible unit has been maintained in the respective projects. In such cases, system try to determine the responsible person, that is nothing but a project manager. So as you see here, so the person responsible is Ron Mayes, and in case if there is no responsibility maintained, say at project task level or the project header level, system will determine the project responsibles directly. It will not create an assigned task. Instead, it will try to determine the respective managers of the project. So let me take you to the next rule, that is approval by cost center manager by value limit. This rule basically helps you to determine the approval rules based on the value limit. That is what we have maintained in the work distribution rules. Say for example, if a business document is sent for assigned to the cost center, and cost center manager has to approve it based on the certain conditions, and in case assuming that they have a value limits maintained under employee work distribution rules. So as you see here, Jonathan Fraser, Arthur Major, Catherine Kennedy Woods, all of them has maintained, as an employer responsible with certain set of value limits, as you see here. And in case if you create a supplier invoice, say for example $50, and if it is assigned to the cost center, MC22 procurement, that is Arthur Major is responsible for this org unit, then system determines Arthur as a responsible person. So what happens if you keep on increasing the value of this invoices here? In such a cases, since this is a by value limit, say for example, Arthur is responsible to approve the document and he has a value limit of 100. So if you have a supplier invoice for $50 or up to 100, Arthur will going to get a task. In case above 100, that is 101 till 200. So from 101 to 199, Jonathan Fraser will get a task, and Catherine Kennedy would get a task above 200. Yeah. So let's take a try in the system how it works. So I'll just close all this data, but let's try. Let's see what is the condition that we have maintained. So here the condition that we have maintained is cost center contains MC 22,000 and total net amount greater than $80. So I'll just change the price to 80, say for example $76 or something. So let me try to calculate so that the tax amounts also gets calculated here. So $80, go to action, calculate total amounts. So let me give more value here because no taxes has been calculated. So now 85. If I go to approval process, as you see here, system has determined Luther Labansky, Al Gilmore, and Catherine Kennedy Woods because we have maintained the employee work distribution rule for all of these employees here based on the respective value limits. The respective employees will get a task, so and they have to approve the respective documents. So let me take back to the next tool, that is approval by cost center manager based on the superordinate cost center. So what is superordinate cost center? Superordinate cost center is one level above the hierarchy for the respective cost centers that has been assigned in the business document. So this tool will send an approval task for the manager of a superordinate cost center. In case if it is assigned to project, it will try to determine the responsible cost center, and it determines the next level cost center manager of the cost center which is assigned to the project task. Yeah. So here, as you see, so this document is assigned to the cost center, then org unit ID is MC22000. From the org structure here, you do see MC20. In case if you assign the supply invoice document to MC22000, system will try to determine Jonathan Fraser, because MC2000 is the next level or superordinate cost center here. Yeah. So let's try this in our system, how system determines the superordinate cost center. So before that, let's take a look at the conditions that what we have defined. That we have defined the total net amount is greater than $800 and less than $900. So I'll try to create the net value. So for example, 825. And I'll try to assign for a cost center. And I'll try to find MC22000 here. Procurement, and calculate total amount so the system calculates everything. So if I go to the approvals tab, you do see that system has determined Jonathan Fraser here, that is next level cost center, and system determines Catherine Kennedy Woods based on other conditions, other set of rules that what we have maintained. Don't get confused with this. Yeah. So here the relevant one is Jonathan Fraser. I'll just show you how it determines. So as you see in the PPT here, so you do see that MC22000 belongs to Arthur Major and MC2000 belongs to Jonathan Fraser. So it will try to determine the next level cost center, that is superordinate cost center. Yeah. And let's take another case here. In case if the document is assigned to the project task. So as I said in the previous rule, if it is assigned to market, so this market is assigned and responsible person is Carly Edison. In such cases, system will try to determine the Bob Fryer as a responsible person, because the marketing cost center and superordinate cost center is MC4000. So let's take a look at the system. What happens if we assign the supplier invoice document to a project task? So we'll go back to the cost distribution and we will assign this project task to COC23. Before we redetermine the rules here, let's take a look at the conditions. It's the same conditions, no changes, and calculate total amounts. So as I said, so we have to open the project and let's go to the approval task. System has determined Bob Fry here. As I said, the project responsible is marketing. So in the org unit hierarchy level, the marketing superordinate cost center is that is MC4000, and Bob Fryer is responsible for this cost center. So that's how system has determined Bob Fryer in that document. So let's move to the next and the last rule that we have, that is all cost center approvals by value limit. So here what happens is this determination happens based on the approval limit. So invoice will be sent for all the cost center managers in the hierarchy from the organizational point of view. Yeah. In case if the approval limit just exceeds for respective managers, so next level hierarchical managers, that is from organizational point of view, will be determined. Yeah. So the process gets repeated until it determines the hierarchical level, and the respective sufficient approval value limit has to be maintained under employee work distribution rule. Yeah. So just make sure that employee work distribution rule is maintained properly and the managers are assigned to the cost centers. So as you see here, the document has been assigned to the cost center, MC22000, and in that case, based on the value limit that what we have maintained, the employee work distribution rule, system has determined Arthur Major, And in case if we increase the value here, system will determine Arthur as well as Jonathan. And in case if I increase more than 200, system determines all three of them. So it acts as up to value limit also, because system has determined the respective cost centers and cost center managers based on the value limit what you have maintained here. Yeah. So let me take a look here. I'll go back to the system. Before we go back to the system, let's take a look at what is the condition that we have maintained. So here we maintained the product category contains 330. So in this case, system has to determine the product category. So I'll try to create a supplier invoice. I'll just change the product which has a product category 330. So it's DC200516 is the product ID which I'm trying to search for. So now system has determined it. So I'll just try to enter, just give the value here, or say 50. Calculate total amounts. Let's go back to the approval rules here, approval process. So here you do see that Al Gilmore and Luther Lubansky has been determined. How is based on that employee work distribution rule that what we have maintained. System has determined the respective approach. So I have given the supplier invoice for $50 US, and you can see that these two users are eligible to approve the document up to 80. Yeah. In case if I give 100, Arthur will going to be able to approve this. In case more than 100, Jonathan will approve it. So by this way, system will try to determine the respective managers based on the respective value limits which has been assigned to the respective managers. Yeah. So this is how system determines all cost center approvals by value limit. Let's move on to the common issues that what we have. This is one common issue that when approving supplier invoices, user gets an error message saying like supplier invoice approval not possible. In that case, self-approval functionality is not scoped in the system. Make sure that you have scoped the self-approval so that the respective approver himself or herself can create documents. The second issue could be that system did not send goods and service receipt for approvals. The one cost could be in this case, that you have defined the condition like exceed amount of PO limit amount equal to S. In such cases, the goods and service receipt has to be created based on the limit purchase orders. If you create a normal purchase orders based on the shopping carts, it won't trigger an approval process at all. So make sure that in this specific condition, the purchase order is a limit amount, and for that you are creating goods and service receipts. Going to the next common issues, that system did not send goods and service receipts for approval at all. So this is a use case where the timesheets will come into the picture for the services. So as soon as the respective service agents does the timesheet, system automatically creates the goods and service receipts. So in such cases, customer expects system to trigger an approval process, but it will not so, because the time records has been already approved by certain managers already. So these goods and services which are created based on entry method timesheets will not go for approval at all. So this is an expected behavior as expected here. And we have another common issue here that system did not send supplier invoice for approval. So assume that you have one condition, that random exception check. Basically, system has created an exception like price variance exception, possible duplicate exceptions. What accountant did was he or she did not accept the exceptions. So in such cases, system will not trigger an approval process. So especially for this condition, random exception check, the accountant has to accept the exception, and then system will trigger an approval process. Yeah. So just as an example, if the invoicing documents, if you just set the percentage as 10%, and on an average, system will send 10% of all the invoicing document with the above exception types that what we have defined here, like price variance, quantity variance, missing return or document. So all of them will be considered here, and system triggers an approval process here. So these are the couple of case documents that we have created and which is valid for approval process. You can go to it and refer later. And these are the reference help documents we have. You can go to Help Center document and type for these. You'll get the relevant information, which is quite helpful to understand the approval process for both goods receipts as well as supplier invoicing. Thanks from my side. Thanks for joining the call for all the participants. And thanks to my co-presenter, Dina, as well.